Alright everybody, welcome back into Cherry Picking. Today's video must add for week 15 of the fantasy hockey season. As always, presented by FanDuel, Canada, North America's #1 sportsbook. That link is in the description below to download the app today. Got a pretty jam-packed week with games. A lot of teams playing 2 games, but a lot of teams playing 4 games. So the teams playing 4 games, the Calgary Flames, Dallas Stars, Detroit Red Wings, the Edmonton Oilers, the Florida Panthers, Montreal Canadiens, New Jersey Devils, the Rangers, Sens, Flyers, and that's it for the teams playing 4 games. And then the few teams playing 2 games next week, which is important because there's one guy we're going to be picking up, but it's a longevity ad. So the Minnesota Wild play 2 games, Carolina Hurricanes play 2 games, Boston Bruins and the Buffalo Sabres also play 2 games. If you need this information, obviously, for later, Daily Faceoff has like the NHL weekly schedule to show how many games each team plays each week. So you can listen to me say it, but you can also check it out on your own. We have 6 players to add this week. Let's get into it. All right, so the first guy we're picking up is Marco Rossi on the Minnesota Wild. 42% rostered, having a very solid season with 15 goals and 22 assists so far. With Kaprizov out, this guy has really taken over the role of the premier offensive player on the Wild at this point. More so than Boldy too, which was a little surprising, but I guess as a center, his role has just been elevated. Playing on that first line, playing on the first power play, playing 18 minutes per game. Since Kaprizov has been out, the Wild have played pretty well without him, to be honest. I think they've won 5 of 7 without him, which is very impressive, something I didn't think they'd be able to do. He has 9 points in 7 games. So Rossi has definitely taken a burden of the responsibility with Kaprizov out to do so, which is really good, I think, for his development as being such a young player. The Wild only play 2 games this week, but his role, I think, will only become better when Kaprizov comes back. You know, Hines is going to see how well Rossi's playing without Kaprizov. It's not that he's going to be like, oh, Kaprizov's back. Let's dwindle down Rossi's role a little bit. I think these 2 guys can play really well together. Like if it's a line of Rossi, Kaprizov, and Zuccarello, or if it's Rossi, Boldy, and Kaprizov, I think either of those lines obviously is going to be very advantageous if you own Marco Rossi in fantasy hockey. So 42% rostered, obviously, for those people who are in less deep leagues, like the 10 to 12-man leagues, this guy's probably going to be available. So Marco Rossi should definitely be on your radar and pick him up if you need a center. The next guy we're picking up is Jackson LaCombe on the Anaheim Ducks. 30% rostered. I was a little surprised to see how highly rostered he is in Yahoo Fantasy Hockey Leagues, but he's having a pretty solid season as well. 34 games played, 8 goals, 10 assists, so 18 points on the season, 67 shots on goal, shooting percentage right around 12%. Not the most physical guy, but he makes up for it in the points department in terms of owning fantasy hockey defensemen. Playing on that first pair with Radko Gudas, so he can claim that offensive role. Obviously, he's playing on the first power play as well. Obviously, with Minchikov, we saw this pretty much with Minchikov last year, having like a kind of like a burst, and this has been Jackson LaCombe's kind of like sprint. Because if you look at the last 2 weeks, he has 7 points, 2 goals, which is 9th most amongst defensemen. I think the craziest part about LaCombe's stats, he's a +3 this year on the Anaheim Ducks. Like, everyone knows how bad the Ducks are and where they fit on the standings board. Only Zellweger, Troy Terry, Alex Killorn, and Brock McGinn are the only other guys that have a +- in the positive. So for such a young guy, him and Zellweger, very impressive to be in the positives in terms of +- playing on a team that's losing that much and giving up as many goals as the Anaheim Ducks too. So he creates solid offense. He's an asset to this team at this point, certainly in the offensive zones. They play better with him on the ice. Like over the last 2 weeks, that's a clear fact. And he's only 30% rostered. So I would definitely try to add LaCombe if you're in the pinch for a defenseman. All right, the next guy we're picking up, Viktor Arvidsson on the Edmonton Oilers. This is maybe coming a week late, but I would still add him considering the Oilers play 4 games this week against the Kings, the Wild, the Avalanche, and the Canucks. Arvidsson has 5 points in his last 7 games, but playing on that second line with Draisaitl and Podkolzin has a 62% expected goals for percentage, the line as a whole. I mean, playing with Draisaitl is obviously going to help his case. And then he's playing on that second power play. Hasn't obviously been able to swing on the #1 power play, considering it's one of the best in the league and has been over the past 3 seasons with McDavid and Draisaitl. The one downside you have to adding someone on the Oilers that's not Draisaitl or McDavid is whenever they're in a pinch or are losing, they're just going to stack that first line with McDavid, Draisaitl, and then either Nuge or Zach Hyman. I doubt it's ever really going to be Arvidsson at that point. So that's one kind of like deterrent in picking up Viktor Arvidsson, but I still would. Like, you look at that span over the last 7 games, he's 4th in individual expected goals for, so creating a lot of offense on his own, but then also playing with Leon Draisaitl, I think that kind of just goes hand in hand. His power play availability doesn't add a lot to his stock, but at 18% rostered, you have a guy playing that well 5-on-5 and playing about 15 to 17 minutes a game. I think he's a solid add for this week for sure. All right, my favorite pickup of the week, Adam Fantilli on the Columbus Blue Jackets, 15% rostered, playing that center position. Sean Monahan just went on IR, unfortunately, so that really helps Fantilli's case of being just a much better asset and tool to this Blue Jackets team at this point, because he's getting slotted onto that first line, which honestly, this season, the Voronkov, Monahan, Marchenko line has to be, I don't know exactly, but it has to be a top 3 offensive first line in terms of production. Because at least over the last 2 months, because Columbus is one of like a top 10 team offensively in terms of goals for per game. At home, they're the number 1 team in goals per game. I bet you no one would have expected that or predicted that at the beginning of the season, scoring more than 4 goals per game at home this season. So Fantilli is like a must add at this point. His last 2 games too, like he got in that the game that Monahan got hurt, he got put onto that first line in the middle of the game and played fantastic. I believe scored the OT winner or had a point on the OT winner. Against Pittsburgh was a big reason why they came back and won that game. And then their next game against against Seattle, also had a couple points. Like, he has a goal and 2 assists in his last 2 games, 4 shots. The entire first line of Fantilli, Voronkov, and Marchenko all have 3 points each. So Fantilli will fill this role really well with Monahan out. He's now getting time on the first power play as well, or a little bit more opportunity and time. This is the highest producing offensive team at home. Like, it's a no-brainer to be able to pick this guy up if you still have the opportunity. I'm sure he'll be one of the more popular pickups this week. The Blue Jackets only play 3 games, but still, this is a guy that's 15% rostered that has the ability to be 30 to 40%. By the time even Monahan, I think, gets healthy. All right, talked about this guy last week. We're going to do it again. Shane Pinto on the Ottawa Senators. I know the Sens have really been struggling. I think they have like 1 goal or 2 goals over the past 7 days at this point, which is really bad. Just got shut out by St. Louis and just got shut out by Buffalo as well. So really tough games for Ottawa. Most recently, they have a laundry list of injuries. Not really like some offensive players for sure, but a lot on the defensive side. But they do play 4 games this week against the Islanders, the Capitals, the Bruins, and the Devils. Capitals, tough game. Devils, tough game. But still, like, Pinto playing on that first line, he's going to be given all the opportunity to be able to create offense and score points. And he's done, or hasn't done that exactly, but he's been given that same opportunity last week as well. And over the last 3 games, he leads the team in individual expected goals for and high danger chances with 5. He's playing on that second power play. He also has 240 faceoff wins, which is it's more than I would have thought and quite impressive if your league tracks that category as well. So I know it's kind of hard to give Pinto another chance, but I think I would if you're in one of those really deep leagues and need to stream a center for this week. All right, the last guy we're picking up, 1% rostered, and that's Kasper on the Detroit Red Wings. He has that center position right now in Yahoo, but he's playing on the wing now, which is one of the biggest reasons why we're picking him up. So I'd imagine Yahoo would add that to his kind of repertoire so that people can play him on the wing. That's one of the biggest reasons why I'd want to add him as well. Obviously, like a 1% center, you're not going to really want to add. But I think this is a really good streamer for the week. They play the Sharks, the Panthers, Lightning, and the Stars, the Red Wings do. And he just got bumped up to that first line in the middle of the game against Ottawa. McClellan said moving Veleno down to that fourth line center and then moving Kasper up is just mix things up. I think it also speaks to kind of the versatility that Joe Veleno and Kasper have to be playing that fourth line center role and being able to be put on that first line. Talks about their durability, skill, and kind of resiliency to be like a fourth line forward checker as well. And I think that's important. And, if this first line sticks, it sticks. You're picking up someone with that's 1% rostered. You're obviously taking a little bit of a risk, but I think it's worth it. Like, this is a guy that was an 8th overall pick in 2022. He had 35 points in the AHL last season. He's also playing on the second power play. He's only played like 35 to 40 minutes on the power play so far this year and has 3 points, but maybe playing on that first line, that could increase as well. Detroit, a team for the last 2 seasons that just has solely relied on their special teams. They have the 3rd best power play this season in the NHL, scoring at a 27% rate. So Kasper, as much as he's 1% rostered and we kind of need Yahoo to do their thing and put some left wing or right wing availability for him, I think he's an awesome streamer for this week. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you thought of Must Add Week 15 of the fantasy hockey season. Shout out to FanDuel Canada for sponsoring the video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys